Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This is the list of the plants to go. The ones in yellow are already allocated because I've just updated the list. Now you probably won't be able to see this on small screens like phones and stuff. I don't know whether you can pause it and blow it up, but I'm going to talk it through anyway, so you'll have the words. And this will be part one, the list. Part two, I will actually film the individual plants that are still left to go so that you can see what you're getting. And the first thing I'm going to say is these plants are not a giveaway. These are not free. And I'm no good at putting a price on a plant because, quite honestly, a plant is worth what somebody is prepared to pay for it. So I'm going to do something a bit strange. And it's going to be a bit, not complicated, but a little bit awkward. So some people might drop out as a consequence. Right up front, these plants are not going to get posted until the weather gets better. Yeah, simple as that. There is one person having one plant that's going to get it delivered that I know of. If that person wants any of these plants, they can just have them at a reasonable price. Otherwise, they're probably going to have to be posted. I've given up with the orchid societies, they just don't work. Right, so the idea is, in the description of this video only, will be a brand new email address, yeah? And the idea is, if you're interested in one or more of these plants, you send me an email showing your interest with how much you want to pay. Now, if only one person wants the plant, they can virtually have it for any price they choose, but you won't know what the other people are offering. You see what I'm getting at? So it's like a bidding effort, if you see what I mean, because it gets me off the hook. You know, for once I'm not going to do the work. So I'll give it an end date, which I haven't decided yet, but I'll think about that. That'll go in the description. And the idea is that if you're interested in any of these plants, you can have as many as you like. That really doesn't worry me. But you'll need to put a bid in for each plant. Yeah? And then I will gather all the emails together at an appropriate time. Any plants that have got no bids on are obviously still available. I'll deal with those. But any bids at all would be acceptable. Yeah? But be sensible. And the idea is that there will be a highest bidder for each plant. That's the person that gets it, but I'm not going to be greedy. The idea will be that if that's the only bid, you just get it. If there are several bids, the highest bidder gets it, but that might not be the price they have to pay, because what I will do is reduce it down to a bit above the next highest bidder. So you might get it a bit cheaper than your bid. As I said, I don't want to be greedy, and I don't want silly prices being offered. But at the end of the day, some of these plants are a bit unusual and not that easy to get hold of. Right, going down through the list. Each line will have the cursor against it as I get there. The Wilbur Chang has already been asked for as a swapsy. It might take a long time for that to happen, but which means I've got to look after it till then, but that's a favour to a friend, so that's that one gone. The Cattleya Angel Heart, number 2, that is the division. When I divided the plant, the older part of the plant decided to chuck out new growths and everything, and one of them bloomed, but the older part of the plant doesn't look too good. The older leaves are not so good, but as it grows on, it's a reliable grower, chucks out good roots, quite a large plant, but for a Cattleya not huge, so that's that one. When I do the videos of the individual plants, I'll put the pictures up, because it's a bit fiddly if I do it now. I'll just show you why I'm not going to do it now. For those that have bloomed, I do have a picture, but I have to wait for the software to load, and it takes a while because it's a hyperlink. It's got to go and find it, and then the picture comes up, which I then have to close down. Actually, I could do that. It's not a big deal, is it? We've got all day after all, haven't we? So that's Angel Heart, that's what it looks like. Not the best picture, I must admit. Now the next two Cattleyas are both young plants. Yeah, they're not doing brilliantly well for me, and I just don't do that well with young Cattleya types, so I'd rather somebody else gave them a bit more time and perhaps effort. They're both mounted at the moment, and for young plants like this, that might not be the best way to look after them, but that's not my choice. So we've got Chen crossed with duvenii is the first one. The second one's got a flipping complex name, but it's basically a cross, which is called Pintado rosada, crossed with Leopoldii escura pintata. Oh, flipping name and a half, isn't it? Right, next one on the list is my mother plant of Dendrobium loddigesii. I've been debating whether to get rid of that or not. That should bloom later this year, and it should then grow. It is a winter rester, so you know, if you're growing in a home and you can't do the cool winter rest, it might not do that well for you. It'll probably grow incredibly well, but you might either be limited or restricted on the number of blooms, and you may not even get any if you can't cool it down a bit. Dendrobium primulinum is a winter rester which is slightly different because it doesn't really need to cool right down. It likes to be a bit cooler and certainly brighter and have the feed stopped and all that sort of stuff, but it doesn't need really low temperatures. That's a nice mature plant, that one, and that one will bloom soon. Dendrobium Thai Angel is a Phalaenopsis type. Lovely purple flowers, quite large for the type of dendrobium, and tessellations within the, as opposed to patterning. So a bit like my big giant purple Vanda in the, you know, the type of thing. But actually, let's go back and do the pictures. Sorry, I forgot. So the loddigesii, the picture looks like this. They're not long-lasting blooms, but they are attractive. Come on, just see what I mean about the time it takes. So attractive blooms, lovely deep gold, not long-lasting, typical dendrobium. I think you get about 3 weeks and only once a year. The primulinum, lovely delicate blooms on this. I wish I'd done this in order. This is going to extend the video now, isn't it? Never mind. Beautiful little blooms on this. Lovely delicate patterning in the lip and on the petals and sepals. Again, not long lasting, but very attractive, and normally over at least 2/3 of the length of the cane, so you do get quite a few. Where are we now? The Thai Angel, that was the one I just got to, wasn't it? Let's get that one up. So you can see what I mean. It's not really it's not a coloured pattern, it's tessellation patterns. Lovely attractive bloom, or it is in my opinion, and you know, reliable bloomer as well. Quite a tall plant though, as Dendrobium Phalaenopsis go. Right, that's down to Thai Angel. Right, now we get to Dendrobium liguella, or liguella, or linguella possibly. I'll get it in a minute. Come on brain, more coffee. Now that's a non-bloomer for me. It's mounted, it's a very long plant. It's over 1 metre long, one of the canes. Halfway down that cane are two very, very large kikis, which I thought about separating, and then I thought, nope, too much effort. And the top of the plant has new growths. Non-bloomer for me. It's possible that could bloom this season. I think it's mature enough. Right, the next one is Memoria Christa Erdmann, which is a Griffithianum crossed with Farmeri, Dendrobium again. That's in a pot. It's a mature plant. It should bloom again this year, and often blooms more than once a year. It has very, very fast growing spikes. You know, you notice the spike, and you go back a few days later and it's like 6 inches long. They progress at a tremendous rate. Lovely pendulous spikes with a mass of flowers on. They don't last that long, but they look incredible when they're out. The dendrochilum is earmarked for INSA when I get round to it. I've been after that for a while. Epidendrum nocturnum, large, what I call clumsy plant. It's the canes go off in upwards, outwards in both directions and downwards. It takes up quite a lot of space. It's currently in active growth. There's a good strong new cane coming out, which is now starting its new root system to go with it. Good root system on this plant, but large and mounted. So far I haven't managed to get the blooms to last very well, but nonetheless it has two canes with spikes on that progressively or successively bloom. So once a cane reaches a spike and produces a bloom, it will repeat blooming on that spike quite a lot. I've currently got two canes that are probably on their third or fourth bloom. There's quite a gap in between. Right, the Epidendrum polybulbum is next. That's already earmarked. That's one that's getting delivered because it's on my way to my daughter's. Then there's the giant Epidendrum something on the floor in a clay pot. The longest cane is highly likely to bloom this year. I don't see why it shouldn't, and it's currently over 1 metre tall, and that's not including the pot. So that takes up a lot of vertical space, yeah? And that will probably need pretty good light to bloom, so you'd have to have a suitable place for that. Very tall plant, and it's still growing. It hasn't finished yet. Miltonia flavescens. That is a good mature plant, very good mature plant. It looks a bit like a twinkle, so it's an Oncidium type, obviously. Miltonia, Oncidium alliance. It's a good plant, but I just can't get it to bloom. So somebody else can have a go, basically. I've got lots of other Miltonias that currently do bloom. There's going to be a secret to that somebody might just stumble on. I don't know, but so far I haven't stumbled on it. It's had mature growths over 2 years now and still yet to put a spike up. So there's a challenge for you. Right, the Oncidium Twinkle Cinnamon is there are 2 of them mounted. They're both in bloom at the moment. The smaller one of the 2 is to go. Nonetheless, although I say it's the smaller one, it's quite a reasonable sized plant. It's probably as big, if not slightly bigger, than what you would buy. So it's a reasonable plant, currently in bloom. There'll be quite a wait for it to bloom again, obviously, and by the time I get round to these being able to be posted, it will be out of bloom, but it should have started its new growths by then. There's one Paphiopedilum left to go, which is Mordii. The one that's in bloom at the moment in the grow room I'm keeping. The other one was the other half of the plant. Now, the older part of that plant is not looking so good, but it does have a strong new growth growing on. The leaves on that look fine. So that's that one. The Phalaenopsis is one of the store-bought Phalaenopsis, the one that's got a white background with purple and pink spots and markings on it. No real ID for that. Basically, there were 2 plants in the pot. I don't want 2. One of them had a flower spike on it. The other one has yet to bloom. This is the one that's yet to bloom. Nonetheless, it's a blooming sized plant. It's not a tiny little plant, it's a reasonable Phalaenopsis. It's got reasonable leaves on it, reasonable root system, hasn't long been potted. It's currently sitting there waiting to come back into growth. So that's that one. My Sideria japonica, which is now Phalaenopsis japonica, I just don't want. But that doesn't mean it's not it's quite a reasonable plant. It's a mature plant, it's bloomed several times for me. As Phalaenopsis blooms go, they're relatively small, they're an unusual shape and they are fragrant. A lot of people think it's incredibly attractive and a must-have. It just doesn't appeal to me, that's all it is. Recently grown 3 new leaves over the last sort of 6 months or so, so it's almost doubled in size recently. So that's that one. My Rancherides Bangkok Sunset was in bloom when I got it, and it's never bloomed since. It's a reasonable sized plant. It's just failed to rebloom for me. It's currently in an open basket. It did grow some new roots during the last season. So it's one to sort of get to bloom basically, but it's a reasonable sized plant. And the last 2 are the Rhynchostylus giganteas. there's neither of them these are that good looking plants. You know, they got marks on the leaves and things, but the one of them has a new leaf growing. They've both got some roots, and the other one has a spike growing. So one's currently in bud and one's growing a new leaf, and they've both got some roots. They're currently in a wooden basket filled up with lava rock. They will come out of there and get posted bare rooted. The roots are chunky, thicker than Vanda roots, very thick chunky roots on them. They don't bend. If you bend them, they'll snap. But it should lend itself to being posted reasonably flat, if you see what I mean, because the plant's growth habit is like a Phalaenopsis. The leaves go off in two directions and in no other direction, so it's like a flat plant basically. So that's the list to go, and as I've said, you need to send me an email to the new email address that will be in this description, not my other one. I don't want to start mucking about transferring stuff across. So if you send it to the wrong one, I'll promptly ignore it. So send your idea of a reasonable price for these plants. You can wait until you've seen the video of each plant. I'm quite happy with that. And this is not a rush. It's probably going to be about 3 weeks before I start working out what I'm going to do. And we could get a really cold period during February, so these might not even get posted till March, but I will do a posting, wrapping up and posting when I can. There's a bus just gone past. He's got to be lost. So sorry, slight distraction out the window. The hell's a bus doing around here? Unless the road's closed or something. Anyway, so those are they. They are to go, but as I said, this isn't a draw. It's a bid, really. So put what you think you'd be willing to pay for any of these in an email. I will gather them all together, and then let the people know. As I said, you can have a go for as many plants as you like. If you're in a position where I can get these to you, opportunities, let me think. We have our Bournemouth Orchid Society show at the end of February. If you can get there, then you obviously haven't got to pay postage and some of my time for packing, have you? You'll just get them delivered at the show. A week or two after that is the Wessex Orchid Society show. The Bournemouth Orchid Society show is in a town called Wimborne, which is, I suppose the easiest way to describe it is not too far from Bournemouth Airport. But it's sort of a market town. It's not really near anything else, but not too far from Bournemouth, not too far from Poole. So that's where that show is. The Wessex Orchid Society show is a week or two later, so in early March, and that is in a town called Porchester, which is near Fareham or Portsmouth, that area along the south coast. So if you can get to either of those two shows, you can have your plants bought, basically. I'll bring them with me, hand them over, you hand the appropriate folding stuff over, and deal done. And no posting, no packing. So that would be good. Not really any other opportunities at the moment, but there's those two worth bearing in mind, because that saves me a lot of hassle. It could potentially jump you up to the top of the list as well. And again, because Brexit now is confirmed as going into a transition period, I can and will only post to UK and EU addresses. So not just people who live in Europe, people who live in countries that are in the European Union. Otherwise we'll get hassles across the border. So yeah, that's it. I'll film them probably today and get that video close to this one. They go together, but that's the names and the sort of, you know, what's going on. Unless it's blatantly obvious, the colours down here, if you're going to blow this up and look at it, the Wilbur Chang doesn't matter because that's gone to somebody else. The Angel Heart is in blue because it's in a holy clay pot. It will stay in that pot. I don't mind losing one. I've got some replacements now. The orange means they're mounted. The black means they're in a normal pot. So just scanning down, yeah. So if it's in orange, it's a mounted plant, and that's how it will get sent. If it's in black, it's in a pot. Those are also the dates. Just go over this. These dates down this column is the date I got it. Yeah, so that's how long I've had it, basically. Obviously with a division, that's the date the division was done, not when I got the original plant. And then these dates down here were the date it was either mounted or repotted. So you can see some of these plants I've actually had quite a while, 2015 in there in places. Yeah, so those are they, and as I said, you know, you should make sensible offers in an email to the new email address, which will be in the description. And what I will do on this video only is I'll take all the other rubbish out of the description so that it doesn't get muddled up. So the other email address won't even be in there, just the one that's special for this. And we'll see what happens. As I said, it's limited by where I can post, and if I can deliver plants, I'm sorry, but they're going to take priority. Yeah, so irrespective of price, if I can get plants to people, then that's going to be my option. If you've ever tried packing up a load of plants and wrapping them and getting them in boxes and getting them weighed and getting them priced and everything, it takes up an awful lot of time. I would prefer not to have to, but then I want these plants gone, and the orchid societies don't seem to be playing ball at the moment. Well, Wessex wasn't too bad, but I know it's hardly worth taking them to Bournemouth. It really is. They won't go. So anyway, I'll see you next time. I hope this works, and I hope you don't feel, you know, I mean, in the past it's always been a draw and everybody gets a fair chance. Yeah, that's fair enough, but it's complicated for me and involves a hell of a lot of mucking about, getting all the names into different spreadsheets and stuff like that. It's all time and work, and I have quite honestly got other things to do. I just want these gone. So that's the way I'm going to do it. See you next time. Oh, and don't forget, part 2 will be having a video look at the plants. Bye for now.